Assalamualaikum. With the sound reaching, with the sound reaches.
I'll do basic way.
Let me see. So you guys can speak my views.
I'm mostly lucky that I've changed the way I look these days.
So
Mufti
wait, there are two people watching. I need to pay. So Mufti Sahib, oh wait, there are two people watching. I need to pay.
What are the names?
Well, that's Reach. Who's it?
There's 2 people. Oh, there's 4 people now. So, Musab, explain this change in your get-up.
Yeah, I decided to pack on a few pounds and get a bit darker. But I'm still the same Mufti Liaqat that you've always known. Oh, last again. Yeah, I've asked you for me. Wait. Yeah, we left it last.
People are now thinking, Mufti Liaqat's Facebook account been hacked. Don't worry. There we go.
Okay, Assalamualaikum.
There we go.
Okay, Assalamualaikum, guys. You guys are in our podcast. Alright, so you guys know now what we get up to. So is this everyone okay? Just get up. So everyone can see. Everyone can see everyone. No one is deprived. Inshallah.
As long as someone's inshallah, that's
No matter where the camera is, I'll be chat.
okay.
I'm not, is that 8 or 0?
Let's see. So can everyone hear us? If you guys can hear us, leave some comments for us. Yeah, leave some comments. We like your comments. Can you guys hear us? Is the sound coming through properly? Hopefully it should be. Signal's good. Alhamdulillah. So as you can see, this is our holy plant we have.
So you'll have to move across that way.
Ah, come on, man. Okay, actually it's better for me.
Yeah.
Yes, they can hear us. Alhamdulillah. So this is, guys, a podcast that we've been having for the past how long?
A few months.
Yeah, a few months now. We're doing a podcast. And
But
basically,
we kept it between ourselves.
So it's a bit like a hush-hush thing at the moment. And then inshallah, once we get the videos edited, we're going to slowly upload them. And we're just going to be talking about general things, really. So, general kind of topics. We have, inshallah, yeah. So this is brother Maulana Abdul Samad. And we're going to see him in a bit. The ultimate supposed all-rounder, who's supposed to be able to edit videos. You can, sort out everything.
I didn't think that. I was just given that. Somehow I just got those titles. I shall start it, yeah?
Okay,
Yeah,
go for it, man, go for it. So today's topic is about crime, guys, yeah? So if you want to add any comments or anything, be our guest. Add your comments, inshallah. We'll have a look at your comments, see what we can add in, inshallah. Maybe, we can bring some of the viewers into our podcast.
Just go for it.
What happened to Yasin not coming? What should I do? Come to go there.
But it's,
You do realize once you moved it from this one, that one's changed as well.
we'll get there.
So yeah, this is
It doesn't need to be perfect, but
Move that.
Is the gain okay?
More. Keep on. That's it.
So how is everyone? How are the viewers? Are you guys okay? Are you guys enjoying yourself? If you're not enjoying yourself, then you need to enjoy yourself, guys. Yeah. Ishas are early. Yeah. Fajrs are late. This is like winter, man. Winter's like, what do you think?
it's alright. Work makes it a bit of a rush.
You prayed your Isha, haven't you?
Right? Yeah.
So what time do you come back from work?
Early? It's about probably 4 or 5ish.
Oh. Okay, shall we start?
Okay, we need the silence first.
Okay, we're good to go. Okay.
So okay, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It's been how long since we done the
4 or 5 weeks.
4 or 5 weeks? But obviously the viewers, the listeners don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so them is
Yeah,
just
we
normal.
just saw each other a couple of weeks ago, and so
What's new? I can see also you got your new hat on.
Yeah, so this is basically all the teachers. One of the students went to Pakistan and he bought all the teachers the same hat. So what happened was we made this kind of rule that when we wear these hats, all of us got to wear the hats at the same time.
okay. Who makes
So
the call?
me, Mufti Islam, Mufti Imran, Mullah Ibrahim, yeah, we all wear them.
So how do you decide on that? Do you send them WhatsApp message or something?
No, we all see each other, go, guys, where's your hat?
Oh,
Yeah.
So he has to be with you all times.
Yeah, with this. No, it's in my office, I just put it on the side.
Oh.
So when the need comes, you know,
Yeah.
you just put it on. Yeah, just put it on this.
What about you? Someone was. I need to announce
That's
this.
the same hat he's worn.
I've actually got a few of the same one.
But I
It's
actually
like
announce this. Samad has hit the big 3-0.
What
He's 30 now.
is that making birthday?
What?
He's 30 now.
You're 30 years old.
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
How old do you think he was?
38. Yeah, so alhamdulillah. So I'm 36, guys.
Yeah, actually.
I'm 36, so.
How does it feel getting older? Do you?
Well, basically, what happens in your bones? You start to ache more. You realize, yeah. I think over time, slowly, the kind of things that you never used to take for granted in the past, you start to take granted more. Health, pain. You play sports, you start feeling pain more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Food as well. You got to be careful of certain foods. Too much of certain foods, you get a bit belly. So, alhamdulillah, I've been playing badminton twice a week this time.
Okay.
Yeah, on Sundays I started 2 hours Sundays.
Still cheating.
Astaghfirullah. Teaching.
Teaching, oh, okay. Because I remember you on table tennis.
What do you mean cheating?
Everything was your
I've
point.
got my viewers watching, bhai. Viewers, let's see if they've got any comments. Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. Okay, someone said they're fine, so alhamdulillah. Okay, anyway, so should we start?
Yeah.
What's the topic today anyway?
Crime.
Crime.
Someone knows all about this.
I've left that life behind me.
I've seen both sides.
Yeah, crime.
Yeah.
Criminal, huh?
Yeah, I've got crime on the one side of my life, and
Crime.
then
We have Crime Watch UK. Did that still come on?
I don't think it does.
I remember in the 90s.
Yeah.
Crime Watch
Yeah.
UK, used to watch that.
And you used to have those breakthroughs of we
Yeah.
posted this and so on so.
Yeah, remember that? Yeah, so I mean, interesting how over time times changed and the way criminals are now operating has changed as well.
But I think with Crime Watch UK now you see police department posting on social media. So
Yeah,
rather than
I've seen
having
that.
to have that national, awareness and this that, the other, it's everything available on social media. So I think.
But I mean, don't you think like look, let me tell you something. Something I have never understood. You know, when police or when like the news, they mention a new groundbreaking way of catching thieves, yeah, or criminals,
yeah.
and they tell them how they do it. Isn't that a bit stupid?
Maybe they want to use it as a deterrent.
Like for example, like the cameras, yeah, like the speed cameras. And they say, oh, now we've got this new camera that can detect you eating a banana whilst you're driving. Like, why tell the people catch them?
But if for example, if you take speed cameras as an example, if you don't tell them and put them there, then you're not serving the actual cause, which is to make the road safer and to prevent people going on. That's just serving as a money making thing. If you're just trying to catch them,
Isn't that partially what they're doing? Cancels.
yeah, but they
That-
gotta
that's-
look like they're working for it.
That's the argument people use for speed cameras. It's just a money making scheme. But
Have you ever been caught for speeding?
yeah, I have actually.
So tell us
Yeah.
more about this life of crime. What happened?
I've got see. I'll tell you this.
Yeah, go.
I've got a fine, not for speeding. I've got a fine for driving in bus lane.
Okay.
Accidentally, that was. I didn't even know it was a bus lane, and I made a wrong turn. It was twice.
Yes, you see, I think with the bus thing, it's one of those ones because sometimes you don't know, or sometimes you're taking a turn, so you might just go into the bus lane a bit early.
Yeah.
And with those ones, it's like I can't remember who it was. I think it might be my brother or someone, but they went in.
Well, it might be you as well.
No, it definitely doesn't mean. They went into the bus lane for like literally few seconds, and they realized that, oh, it's a bus lane. They came back out. So they'd have few shots. So he disputed it and he won it eventually. Let's say yes, fine. You know, you were only there in a few seconds and came back out. So, but it's just one of those things where.
Okay.
And so
Actually, you know what? I could have done that.
Dispute it.
Dispute it.
Yeah, but they would have seen the footage or whatever they had.
And I wasn't like driving at 10 yards or something. We were just dropping someone off and then walk driving up.
Yeah, but you stopped that. That's.
Oh, stopping as well.
Yeah. That's probably worse actually.
Alright, man.
Yeah, I mean though, these when you look at it though, in the grand scheme of things, these are sort of like minor offences. A lot of the people, like, you hear a story. Personally, I don't listen to the news. I don't like reading news or anything. If there's something which is going on big, I might, you know, if people are talking about it, I might just look into it or something.
Okay.
But generally with the news, it's just everything's just, it's always about the negative. This happened and that happened, and I've partially grown up listening to Pakistani news. So listening to Pakistani news, it's just politicians shouting at each other.
Yeah.
So it's same.
No, I've got barbers, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, as you can tell, I'm not really, very fond of going to the barbers. But whenever I go there, every time, yeah, it's that, what is it, ARY? Yeah. That's like the worst ever.
But is it just pure?
Do you know,
is it
do
sheer
you know
luck?
what ARY is?
Yeah, I was in the restaurant the other day and it was on, and it's split up into like 6 or 8 different
Yeah.
people, and they're all shouting over one another.
Yeah. That's how it looks like. 1
It was like every time, and then you don't understand what's happening, and they're discussing something, and then they're shouting, and they like humiliating each other.
But then you even got like stuff like the news channel Sky News or BBC News. 24 hours. I mean, how many stories are they going to cover in a day? It's just on loop, same stuff every,
Yeah, but I don't think it's those channels are there for you to sit there watch all day. If you need your quick fix of news, you go and watch it for a bit. You get catch the headlines, catch a few pieces, or if something major breaks through, you got it there.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
It's not meant for you to watch it all day.
Do we need the news?
Yeah,
Why?
just stay informed about what's
But
going
why
on.
though?
Sorry?
But why?
Okay, you have levels of news, you have
I'm
rules.
gonna ask you 7 whys, yeah?
Okay. Yeah, you have the world stage, it's just decent to know anything major going on in the world. Then you have national, if something ever occurs. And then you have the more local.
No, but why do you need to know that? How is it going to improve the quality of your life?
Okay, for example, when you had the stuff going on in Birmingham and London or those other cities where people started rioting and looting, stay safe, stay at home.
Okay, so
Yeah,
like
but do you need
once every 2-3 years, yeah?
Can't you just have like a news alert? This shows on movies and stuff where the TV shuts off and this is a news alert and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what
No, it's like, I've seen, in some countries, some Arab countries, Dubai and these places, authorities will send out a very important message to everyone on their phones.
Okay.
If it's like something really serious,
Yeah.
like a freak weather storm or something, they'll send a message out.
Yeah.
So you're informed. There was actually one scholar I remember, he would not read the newspapers, and he would get one of his students, to read the newspaper and just tell him the beneficial things that's it. Like tell him what's important he needs to know. He would just tell him that.
Yeah.
And he would saves the whole hassle of because personally I think watching the news it just makes people obsessed about the world and about
You don't need
negativity.
every piece of information. I'll give you don't need everything. But I don't know, at least for awareness.
So is it just a
General
feel-good factor
knowledge.
that you're in control? You feel you're in control?
No, it's just generally being aware.
No, but-
It
but-
seems like to a degree, if you completely eradicate your intake of news, then there's a bit of ignorance going on, isn't it? Just absolutely not knowing everything, and you're in some just completely enclosed. You just know what's going on personally with you.
Yeah, but I'd make 2 arguments for that. Number one is the bias in news is, you never really know the true story unless it's, there's always bias from the
Yeah.
reporter or even the reporters haven't got the full facts. I love these murder cases and stuff. We can discuss the trial process and stuff, but a lot of the time you don't know the facts. And secondly, okay, you might want to know certain bits, but do we need 3-4 news channels for 24 hours? Do we need news on every hour? Do we need newspapers? Or can
My
we just,
barber would say yeah.
I mean, so maybe.
But for some people it's just like conversation material. Yeah, it's like when you go work, what you can talk about.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, that was at my house or anyone's house.
Yeah.
I was thinking my cousins, like, how long before the elders start talking about Pakistan politics?
Mm.
And it's literally a few minutes before they get into it. Like,
But I thought that's what you have to do.
that's the thing. If you don't know politics, then but I don't know. I think sometimes having too much news is, and as I said, it's always doom and gloom. So they'll never show.
Yeah.
There's never much interesting stuff. It's always like, oh, a murder happened. This happened so and so place. So and so got killed. You know, so and so got busted for drugs, etc. They never. I mean, if there's interesting news, there's that. I can't remember what it is. It's I think NHK or something, one of the Chinese channels.
Okay.
They have some like they have this segment.
How do you understand it?
No, it's in English.
Oh.
But they have these segments of, you know, technology breakthroughs and that sort of stuff. That's interesting. I find, and that's useful as
So
well.
for someone who doesn't watch news channels, why are you watching a Chinese news channel?
My dad watches a lot.
So I suppose, okay, what you're saying is basically you disagree with certain types of news channels, certain types of news channels you like. So you're with the idea of being informed all the time.
No, I'm not with the idea of being informed. I'm just saying that segment I like. So if it was the snippets, even nowadays people got phones, you can kind of Google will tell you, you know, what sort of news article will
Trending.
Yeah, trending, or based on your search history, etc. It'll suggest articles. So I think that's the better way, because people can then, you know, it's more relevant rather than just generic information that I may not be interested in. So I prefer to stay in touch with the news more through my phone, seeing these sort of articles, or searching for something people come into it, rather than watching BBC News, Sky News, or something.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Going back to what you were saying earlier on about biased, you know, like one of the things, for example, this pedophilia it's a kind of trend now that's just popping up on the news nearly every other day or every other week. We see people being caught for pedophilia, gangs being caught for pedophilia. This crime obviously is happening. But the thing is now, is the news kind of really reflecting the reality out there? So the amount it's being exposed, amount of exposure that they're giving us of the people that are being caught, is that really reflecting the percentage of crimes that are happening out there related to pedophilia? Or is it just something which they find to be, you know, eye-catching? So there might be someone, there could be someone who was just accused of pedophilia, comes on the news, and then it's like the case has been dropped, but they don't bring that dropping of the case in. You get that? So it's like, you know, sometimes you think, you watch this news and they'll accuse someone of terrorism, or they'll accuse someone of a certain, you know, kind of hot crime, which is kind of very hot topic at the moment. And then you won't hear of them being dismissed of that crime. And then, so you might think, you know what, there's so many people doing this, there's so many people involved in.
Yeah.
Whereas, other kind of crimes in our areas are hardly ever highlighted.
I think it's not necessarily like a hot topic. I think it's more the police or whoever the government.
There were a few major events, a few major incidents that got caught, and they made headlines. And then since then, whenever it happened, it's just more of that confirmation. You see it and you're like, oh, look at how often this happens. Look how often it happens. Because you all remember back to those major cases that that ring a bell.
Argument there is it a case of they're pushing this crime forward, and if they feel it's like a hot topic, people are interested, or is it because, you know, the police are doing something different to tackle this crime, therefore they're being more successful in catching these people, and that happens to make the news? So again, it's one of those things where you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes, or even why they're publishing this news as opposed to something else which, you know, you might feel is more important. Or so it's.
So is it just to gain numbers, viewers?
I think there has to be an element of that, because
all news outlets, there's that thing where they want, if it's website based, they want the clicks. If it's a news article, they want people to be buying those headlines, isn't it?
Yeah, especially with online, sometimes, so many times I've read an article, and what's in the headline is essentially the entire article. But you read the article, and then they start bringing, you know, they'll bring information about the person's history, or some other news article.
Okay, it's a clickbait basically.
Yeah, so it literally, but obviously if they publish a paragraph as an article, people are going to, what this is really a news. So they have to extend it. So sometimes it's just a case of
You know, like these kind of independent sort of organizations that you get where people are reporting things on social media, or like, you know, recently when there was those riots in Lozals, yeah, you know, a few years ago, there's riots, and then there was like there was a Sikh TV channel. Yeah, remember that one?
Yes.
So was it Sangam TV or something?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
that.
And they were like, all of a sudden, no one heard of them. And it was like, they were
But they
like,
had the behind the scenes.
look at these guys, they're running. Yeah, and it was like, you know, everyone seems to want to kind of, you could say, magnify the crime. It's, and to me, it just seems unnatural. As in, not unnatural, unhuman. It is obviously human to kind of want to see more evil than wanting to see more good. So there's so much good happening in the society, but we'd rather, you know, focus our attention on the crimes that are happening, the bad things that are happening, rather than the good stuff that happens.
But also, I think that's led to a perception of us thinking now that crime is on the rise, like to a major degree, because now everyone has a quick device they can pull out and start recording anything going on. Like, and if it's something locally, it gets posted or passed around people, and we get to see it. And we have that perception where people say, "Oh, look how much violence there's on there's, look how much this is going, that going." But if you actually look at the stats, over the last 15, 20 years, crime has been on the decline, according to the police and the Home Office. But for our perception, we think, okay, what's going on? Maybe in the direct locality, it could have increased that. Okay, I don't know about, but our perception when we get all these things, we think, okay, look at the state of where we're living, look at what it's like. Do you want to live here? You get those conversations start cropping up. But the stats actually argue against it.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I think the other thing is, like you said, it's the perception of the people when something good happens is, well, that's just normal. That's how things should be. So if someone helps an old lady cross the road,
yeah, but that's not newsworthy.
Yeah, that's not newsworthy, because people just think, well,
so
this is how society should be.
What you're saying, there's something that's newsworthy, as in, when we say newsworthy, does that mean that it's something that we need to know about, or does it just mean just for, you know, status quo?
I don't know.
No, see, personally, I would say newsworthy something is something that we either need to know about, or something which need to know about is very
that's subjective.
Yes, subjective, because everyone's gonna have different needs. So I think need to know about, for example, you know, thunderstorms, or what was that Hurricane
Ali.
Hurricane Ali, yeah. So stuff like that, I think it needs to be known. Then there's stuff like general, I would say more humanity, so progression in humanity, or, you know, regression.
If see, those there are some like YouTube channels out there. Like, have you heard of Vice?
Yeah.
I think those are very beneficial. They'll tell you about what's really happening. You know, reality kind of TV news. What's really happening. I mean, we don't know exactly to what degree they're manipulating the facts and figures, because I don't think everyone just takes, you know, TV channels and media to be authoritative in these things. So as soon as they say something and you accept it blindly, whatever they say. So you never ask them for their dalil, basically. But I mean, in going back to what we were saying in the beginning about the crime, it's like now we are being fed information, we are being told about crime, and it's like the crime that we're being shown on the TV is obviously, you know, it's doctored, yeah, it's kind of manipulated, you know, to a certain degree, you can say. We all know that. Now, I mean, this new concept of, what is it called, fake news now. Well, we know that the media, a lot of it is fake news anyway. Yeah, manipulated news. So about the crime, going back to the issue of the crime, so like, for example, now the perception about young Asian men and, you know, grooming gangs. If we didn't watch the news, we wouldn't know it. It'd be like, I've never come across a situation in my life where, you know, someone in my own locality has been caught because of grooming. I don't know, maybe the viewers have.
There is one instance.
No, I'm just saying generally, the amount, that exposure that's being given to this crime. Now, obviously, it's a heinous crime. Anyone is doing it, but it's like, why is it always up north? Like, is it?
They stay here. Like, that goes
the water as well.
Yeah. No, what I was gonna say is, look, you're not gonna come across it in your daily life because you're not a young girl. You're not their target. Okay,
No, I mean-
unless they're really
I don't-
different.
I-
But
I think
as in, you're not
hear
gonna
of
come
drug
across-
dealers,
Yeah, yeah, you
you
hear, like, you
hear
hear-
of killings, you
like
hear of
robberies, you hear robberies on a daily basis.
yeah,
You
but
hear
by
about
the
these
nature
crimes.
of it, if you're going to talk about grooming, that's something that's they attempt to keep more hidden, isn't it? Like, because
No, but it, hidden or not, what I think themselves getting at is certain crimes. You know someone or know someone who knows someone who's committed a murder or been murdered or been involved in drugs.
I think with those,
I think what was
despite us not agreeing with them, certain people might take it as a feather in their cap. They've done this, okay, and even if they later turn around and say, "Look, I've left that life behind" or whatever, they still try and somewhat say, back in the days I did this.
No,
So I hung around with guys that did that. But let's be honest, if a guy is left grooming or whatever, he's never going to turn around and say, "You know what I used to do." Because there's a difference.
Okay,
They're not going to make that
let's
up.
agree, let's
But
agree,
you
yeah.
agree. There's one more thing. In the school, one of the schools I used to like, I knew this woman because actually I don't know the name, and she is part of
I
safeguarding.
was
So
gonna
she-
say, yeah, I knew a gang.
yeah, no, and she had to deal with like whatever issues that came up for children. And when she left that school, I asked her like, "What was the worst stuff you dealt with?" And one of the things she brought up was this, and she said was, like for that school, they know which cars would come up to pick up the girls.
Oh.
Girls from year 7 onwards.
Ooh.
Okay, they know which car and they know where they take them because there were hotels and stuff not too far away that had like relatively low rates. Police even closed them down, but they opened up under new management. But essentially, it was the same thing going on,
Okay.
and they pass it on. Like they pass on that information to the police and for it to get dealt with and all that stuff. And so sometimes like there's not enough direct evidence, or like other issues would come up, and like some of the girls that come back with videos on their phone of stuff like whatever going on. So it is stuff that happens. And then she thought, is this just in this kind of area? What's going on? Started talking to the safeguarding and other schools in other areas, and they were saying the same thing. It's just a really common thing. So it does go on.
I think that you touched on something about direct evidence, and I think a lot of the time the crime, because they don't have evidence, they can't, get an arrest warrant or.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of red tape as well. So sometimes when people say
Okay.
the police isn't doing their job, sometimes their hands are tied by the law because. And I mean, there's so many lawyers who will get people off just on technicalities. So they know the person might even confess. Or they might even have video footage of it, but a technicality, something simple as, I mean, if in a public place, if you're recording as an organisation, you have to have a sign saying that CCTV in progress, whatever.
Yeah.
So people will commit a robbery, but because the sign isn't displayed, they will say, "Oh well, the sign wasn't displayed, therefore you can't be recording me," and they'll get off and take
As
that.
in that won't count as evidence then.
That it's no longer,
Yeah, I get you, yeah.
So in court, they
I
want
mean,
to take.
sports is a very tricky one. So let's see what the guys are saying. Walaikum assalam. Any questions, guys? Do you guys have any questions for us?
If someone can answer more.
Yeah,
You go ahead.
yeah, go on. No questions for us.
Must be doing a really good job. Answering your-
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Na'am, mashallah. Irfan, Dr. Irfan is watching as well, alhamdulillah. Okay, so I mean, look, I think we're kind of going off on a tangent here. It's very interesting stuff, this is. But going back to the issue of crime, I mean, when it comes to crime, what was like the first crime that you actually witnessed yourself? I mean, the first proper crime that I witnessed myself, I remember was it was a robbery. Yeah, a woman's handbag was snatched off her. Yeah, well, first time I saw that, it was like two guys. They just went to this woman, pulled her handbag, I think her necklace or something as well. And them days that was common. I don't think this is very common nowadays. Yeah, but in the olden days it was like just pulling people's necklaces off, especially Asian women used to have their gold on, pulling their gold off and handbags. So that kind of stuck with me for a long time. That was like an image in my head. It's kind of scary as well. You're young, I was probably about 9, 10-year-old, and on the street, it was with my brother, and they just like pulled the woman's, and she was like crying and screaming, and they just ran away. So it's like crime in the community, I think, has always been there. Yeah, and it's like even like in Islam, Islam has put restrictions in place, constraints, which are there not to kind of eradicate crime. Crime is never going to go away, but it's more to kind of to control. Yeah, to control crime, to put things in place so that it deters people from committing crimes. It makes people kind of become more conscious about themselves. So there's crimes, you know, different kind of crimes that kind of people. So some kind of crimes that will occur behind closed doors, no one knows about it, and there's many crimes that occur in public. So I think crimes, if you look at the kind of Quran, the way the Quran describes crimes, so some of the crimes are horrific crimes that people commit, like daylight robbery, murder, assassination, even like spiritual crimes as well, like backbiting. These are still crimes. Although legally in the courts you can't be taken to court for backbiting someone.
Well, you can in a way, defamation or
Not backbiting though.
not if you're not necessarily backbiting, but if
Slander, yeah.
slander, yeah.
Yeah, slander. Islamically, slander by court can be punished. But it's like it's more kind of comprehensive, I would say. Islamically, it's more comprehensive how Islam looks at crime. You know, the impacts of crime, the way we kind of, it has a spiritual effect on you as well. So it's not just committing the crime. It's like when a person commits fornication, like they say, you know, Imam Bukhari rahimahullah says that the soul kind of leaves the iman leaves the body and it floats over the head. So it's like crime is, although it's in the nature of man to commit crimes, you know, yufsidu fil ard, to commit the fasad, but it's like there has to be certain things in place to counter that. And like you're mentioning about the red tape issue, that's something even in Islam, the fiqh laws that have been developed and devised, even there you get red tape.
Technically, wouldn't you class the four witnesses as a case of that though?
Yeah, I mean that's an issue there.
Yeah.
But we're looking at generally, for example, like, I mean, if there was a crime committed but there was no witnesses, the guy gets away with it.
Yeah.
So it's like it's interesting because the scholars
like,
mention
in like the court rulings or in the dunya, you're gonna have to have certain like criteria for something to be classified or something to count as evidence, because obviously we believe that like in the later, in the afterlife, everything would be accounted for just with like justice, but here we have to have like certain things that we go by, because if it's just everything turned into speculation, you know, I reckon he must have done it. Like, where would you draw the line? What would be the evidence? And our limit is having witnesses, so we have to go.
And that's why I said there is this concept of red tape, and you know, people going according to the word of the law, right? But there is that element, and because we're human beings, we're obviously prone to you know,
play with that.
Yeah, play with that. So I mean, this is why the fuqaha have said there are two legal systems. There's like the worldly legal system, which we have to follow a specific sort of protocol in trying to establish the case. And then there's the hereafter one where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He obviously deals with everything justice, pure justice that is. So we do have this problem.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think crime generally, like in this country, like a criminal, if a criminal gets caught and a criminal goes through the prison system, you often hear, and if you know, me watching these YouTube documentaries about the maximum, you know, prisons in America. Yeah, this what they call like super prisons in America, and then you hear about things like a guy would go in because he was caught with a parking ticket, and he came out, you know, fully fledged murderer. He killed so many people in prison, and it's like he got raped in prison. He got beaten up in prison. He's actually got convicted of several crimes.
To actually
hooked on drugs. Yeah. So it's like the system is okay. We have flaws in the system, man-made systems that we have, but it's like the system that we have at the moment, if there's no sort of like spirituality there, if there's no kind of connection with the akhirah, hereafter, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it seems as though the crimes are just going to continue. There's no way of culling the crime. It's just people will just, you know, fashion the crime in a different way. So in the 90s, crimes were in a certain way. in the 10 years ago they were in a different way. Now they're going to be in a different way. So crime is just evolving.
But if you say that, then you need that spirituality and stuff like that. So would you say that's one of our shortcomings? Because looking at it, we're something like 9% of the population Muslims. As a prison population, we make 14%. So representatively, we're a lot more. So we just so if it comes to a thing that you need Allah and you need to have that spirituality, like we supposedly have it, but why are we so populous in the prisons? Would you say we've let ourselves down?
You can answer that, yeah.
Have we let ourselves down?
So okay, so
I think there is an element of you've let yourself down. I think there's certain. I mean, it depends. You got to look at that figure of 14% as well. What are they in for? Some people might be tax evasion or something. I'm not saying everyone go out there and evade tax, but it's something where some.
But
people,
it's still a crime and still something that we shouldn't have been doing.
That we shouldn't do that. I'm not. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's fine to do that. Nor am I saying you follow the law of the country. That's fine. But what I'm saying is certain crimes to people spiritually and in the dunya, they have no effect on them. They say, well, they almost argue that that law. Why should we pay tax? Why should we so much money? Etc. So I think to a degree you got to look at
morality. Okay, like for example, morality now when it comes to these crimes, we obviously as Muslims believe that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala He gives us guidelines for morality, and those moral rulings are emphasized more. If you look, there's more heavy emphasis on the morals and inculcating this in one's life. Then if you look at the crime itself, so it's that the crimes will occur. There are things in place to kind of counter that, but at the end of the day, it's like, look, it's very important to remember that what you're doing is wrong. What are you going to do on the day of judgment when you come to Allah? What are you going to do? So this, I think, and what you're saying about the 14%, the 14% thing, and I mentioned this earlier as well. I said, is that 14% like the ones who were born and bred Muslims, or is it because they went to prison as non-Muslims or non-practicing, non-identifying Muslims, and then in prison, because they started practicing Islam, and then they became Muslim, and then they just pushed the numbers up. But because that is a common thing as well. I don't know how true the facts are about the number of people accepting Islam in prisons. In America, it's supposed to be the fastest growing religion in prisons, Islam, and it's well known that a lot of people will go prison and end up Muslim in prison. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, it's like
that'll skew the
But see, I think that morality and all that comes into play for larger crimes. So, for example, I'll put it to both of you. You're going down on a 30 mile an hour road. If you go 35 miles an hour, you're technically breaking the law. You're not necessarily you're not necessarily going to go to prison for it. But do you ever feel morally, oh look, I've done something bad, or do you regret?
So hypothetically, if we have gone over 30 miles per hour,
so if that was the situation, and so whereas if that 35 miles an hour led you to knock someone over, obviously that would be a lot. You feel a lot more regret for it. Likewise, if you even accidentally kill someone.
What are you trying to say?
What I'm trying to say is the moral aspect of crime as a prevention only comes into, I feel, is
if you agree with it.
In a sense, if you agree with it, but for larger crimes where so if someone's, for example, drugs, someone might say, well, morally, I don't see anything wrong with it. So the spiritual side, they might even argue, even Muslims might argue, cannabis or other drugs maybe should be legalized, or Islam doesn't prohibit it. They may continue to do, but legally they're saying, well, we're breaking the law, but why it doesn't affect them, because their moral compass is completely.
So Islamically, where do we stand then? If a law says like this isn't permissible, and then on the other hand you think, okay, Islamically there's nothing wrong, what's the ruling in that situation?
The thing Islamically is, obviously, if the ruler of a country mentions a specific law regarding something, and you agree to abide by the law, then you come under a pact with the government. Al-Muslimuna ala shurutihim. Muslims are bound by their conditions, meaning the agreements that they make. So if we make an agreement that we're going to be citizens of this country, we are ultimately kind of saying that we're going to abide by whatever you guys tell us. And then by breaking that, we are breaking the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. Meaning we come into an agreement with someone.
So for example,
like
in
you
this
work
country,
for
polygamy then, Obviously, people might turn around and say, okay, it's not the official marriage, we're just doing nikah.
Mm.
But for all intents and purposes, for us, that is marriage, isn't it?
Yeah.
So would you say that
No, but
shouldn't
see,
be practiced here?
I don't agree with that because
No, because
I mean, it's a
mean,
question.
no,
like, taking
I don't agree with the premise that polygamy is illegal because, like you said, nikah, all intents and purposes is the same thing.
Yeah.
But if a person has a wife and he openly says, I've got 3 girlfriends, 4 girlfriends, he's not.
okay, let's try this
so
way.
they put that
Are
loophole.
you saying that according to British rules of marriage, you can't have more than one wife, and that goes against what the Quran says? Yeah, is that what you're saying? Or are you saying that the British got no problem with a man having multiple partners, wherever he wants to call them in his?
You lost me. Sorry.
So no, that's what I'm saying. So if a person has 4 wives, he's a 4 nikahs. According to British law, it's not accepted. It's not recognized as marriage.
Right, okay.
in-
So he's not breaking. Basically, he's not breaking the
Yeah,
law.
so he's not breaking the law.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's the way I see that.
Okay. What would be a
But-
case
but-
where something relatively commonplace ends up breaking the law? Then that.
I don't know. I don't know the British law to that degree, but I can look at that. I mean, ideally, we should have brought someone in.
I mean,
Who breaks the law?
or
Okay.
someone who knows the law better than us.
yeah.
Yeah, because it's difficult to kind of say. Sometimes what happens is
Yeah.
we think something is the law. I was speaking to a police officer, and he was saying to me, I was saying to him, "What's the most difficult sort of crime to kind of pull someone up on?" He goes, "Walking naked or urinating on the street." He goes, because the police, they don't really know the exact boundaries of the law. So if they does it come under disturbing the social sort of norm? Does it come under misbehavior? What kind of law does it fall under?
Okay.
So they might be able to say to someone like, "Oh, you're not supposed to urinate on the side, right? Let's take you inside the cell." Right? But under what law are they going to arrest them? Yeah, so it's like very difficult to kind of say what the law is saying if you don't really haven't studied it. I don't know, maybe someone
It's come to
can
mind
help
now.
us.
To answer someone's question, where the law actually contradicts the Islamic teaching
Yeah.
is the banning of the hijab. That would be a prime example where they're saying, well, if you're going to wear the hijab, you're going to, I don't know, whether they're fine or jail or etc.
Yeah.
So I mean, in that situation,
Okay, but that's the law going against something wajib. And I'm talking about law going against ibaha. So law going against something that's merely permissible on our side.
speeding. There's no law in Islamically to say you can't speed, but
Okay, then it goes back to what you've said. You've agreed to follow the law of the land. You're breaking the law. Would that, because what would that be classified as then? Not a fatwa. Just what?
I mean, it's a difficult. Basically, if you have agreed, if you as a driving instructor, a driving license holder have signed a document saying that, look, you're going to abide by the law,
Yeah.
then
I don't
technically,
think you do, do you?
Actually, I don't like where this answer is going.
yeah, so technically you shouldn't be doing that. That's something. But you see, it's like this. It's like, are you really breaking the law? No, because you see, there's like a buffer zone, isn't there?
And then, what's the technicality about it?
This is exactly what I mean about the red tape and lawyers getting people up on
On the 30 zone, you got
Look,
40.
look,
You're asking me, are you
if you're
really-
breaking the law, as in, are you breaking the law because you went over 30, or are you breaking the law if you get convicted?
No,
You
break the law.
No,
you've done it.
you're breaking the law if you're going over 30. If it's like saying
Whether you call it,
it's
it
like
doesn't
saying if
matter.
you murder someone, are you breaking the
No,
law?
like, okay, murder is something that's understood. Whether you're,
Yeah, the law isn't.
I'm saying
like,
like
the
speeding,
law
for
isn't-
example, speeding,
You're not allowed to get caught over
because it's
30
like,
here.
it's like normally understood generally, even the police know this,
Yeah.
that people will go over the limit and they won't stop them.
No,
Yeah,
but see,
the
the-
general understanding, everyone's fine
That's what I'm
with
saying to you, is-
everyone's fine with it, but the letter of the law says you can't go over it.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So is that technically like breaking the law per se?
I
Breaking
get
the
what
law?
you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, or is it something where you have to
No,
you
see-
have to be caught, and then that really comes under breaking the law.
No, well, I mean, it depends how you look at it. If you look at the law, obviously the police can use discretion and don't pull you over. But at the same time, if you got pulled over for doing 35 to 30 miles an hour road,
Yeah.
you cannot argue saying, well, I wasn't technically breaking the law.
Okay, let me look at this thing. I know a friend, yeah, and you guys know him as well. He was going on a 30-mile-per-hour road at 70 miles per hour.
Okay.
Yeah. Police pulled him over and said to him, "Do you know how fast you were going?" He goes, 35. They go, "No, you're going 70. Yeah. And then he goes, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry." They go, "Okay, don't do it again." So you see, now they don't take that seriously. They don't take that seriously.
That's still breaking the law.
I'll tell you what happened then myself. Because I got pulled over.
Yeah.
And I can.
No, it wasn't you, okay.
No, I can guarantee you, I was going maximum 35 on a 30 road.
Yeah.
Pulled me over. I said maybe 35, maybe 40.
Yeah.
Even though you're going 70. So I was shocked. I was like,
No, this guy said he's going 70.
No, but the police told me I was going 70 as well. So
Okay.
I was shocked. Like, no, there's no way, whatever. They pulled me over. And then essentially the way it came down, they said, "Look, we'll be giving you a ticket right now, but we haven't got the system in our car to record it. So it's just our word against yours, essentially."
Yeah.
So maybe that's what happened with your friends as well.
So suddenly you said 29.
No, I actually thought.
Have you heard that one? That,
Actually,
joke
the
with that
40
guy,
mile
he gets pulled over by an officer, and then he says, "Oh, there's like a dead body in my boot. Yeah, I killed someone."
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then like they call up the police, and then the police come and check the boot. There's no one there. And they go, "Where's the body?" He goes, "What?" He goes, "Did that guy also tell you I was going over the speed limit as well?" So I mean, look. Okay, let's go back to this now. So crime. How? Or
should we? Are we trying to reinvent the crime system? I don't know. But what I think there needs to be is a focus or some sort
I
of.
think we've still got a big one. Let's
see what. Okay, fatwa, it's halal as long as you don't get caught. No, it's not. It's not halal. Yeah, it's not halal as you don't get caught. I don't know, actually. Retract.
But obviously, it was a hypothetical situation. You never have to go fast.
Yeah.
But
so to say, I mean, you can't say like halal and haram at that level.
Yeah.
It's not halal and haram. Yeah, it's just like breaking sort of like a a contract, the agreement that you make.
But would you even go to the level of saying that? Do we need a law to say you have to? I mean, educate the people, shouldn't be speeding, etc. But some people might argue, well, why do we need the police to pull us over and book us ticket?
you can't pick and choose the laws you follow.
No. I'm not saying laws to follow. I'm saying should we have laws for it? So should we focus our intention on saying, look, we need to catch murderers, we need to catch rapists or whatever other serious crimes there are.
Yeah.
Whereas when it comes to smaller crimes, look, if the police.
So how do you decide what's serious?
But then it's also you need a bit
I
of.
think there's a.
It's there for the sake of order as well, Anna. Like motoring, like I'll understand if they turn in like the autobahn or something like that. But the standard road, you need some sort of speed limit because otherwise you're gonna get people going into chaos. Because if there's no limit, you're gonna get more people inclined to go faster, and they're gonna be trying. And you're gonna get like the other day, I was going to Akak Street, and I think it was Foxhound Road, one of those roads on the side. It just a car completely destroyed a bus stop. Okay, like imagine more people are inclined to speed now, not because it's like speeding.
Oh, is that because it was
it is a very short stretch, and
could be some other reason. Maybe he's got a
destroyed.
problem in his car. Maybe he was.
Okay, the problem, but if he was under the limit, it wouldn't have been that damaging. Okay.
No, but
Or like a week ago, that footage of that woman like who went 165 or 145 whatever into the tree. Okay, obviously people try to argue she wasn't speeding, but your engine doesn't fly out the other side of the car if you were going that fast. Plus there was that Snapchat.
No, I think
Snapchat should go up 145. That's dangerous.
Right.
Okay,
You're right,
you
definitely.
like things like that cause problems. Now, if there isn't a speed, if there wasn't a speed limit, let's be honest, a lot more of us would probably think about it. Let's just see what it feels like to go 120 on this road. Okay, the people that wouldn't be inclined to break the law, then they start doing things like that. Okay, then it becomes more dangerous. Okay, so it's there for a bit of order as well.
Okay, but then what I'm saying is, can't they have like an advisory? So saying.
Yeah, but you can't pull people up on dangerous driving by saying, okay, you know what, it was advisory. You see what people the guy's gonna turn and say, but what law? It's only advisory. I don't have to follow it.
So then what I'm saying.
So what do you mean by advisory?
No,
He's saying-
what I mean by instead of saying, look, this is speed limit.
You don't have to follow it.
You don't have to follow it, but the police can. The reason I'm saying this is.
I thought that's why speed limit is on.
no,
You don't have to
so,
follow it, but
no, so what I'm saying is the police can pull you over,
Yeah.
have a go at you, but rather than having to book you in and going through the paperwork and stuff, and bogging themselves down with that sort of crime, they can then say, okay, look, don't do it. Now, obviously, you get all sorts of people. I mean, even with all these speed cameras and people, will go around.
I think the Islamic side of these kind of will come into the law if it's obviously going to become dangerous, like you said. If the risk is very high, like when you put your seatbelt on, for instance, it's the law, isn't it? And if a person is driving, they have to make sure their windscreen is clear. Yeah, so against the law to have a foggy windscreen and drive as well. And having snow when it's snowing, on top of your car having a large amount of snow on there.
That's fake news, by the way.
No, this is actually, this,
No, I'm sure that's fake news.
I actually had news. Actually, I saw someone actually told me this.
Yeah,
that was a couple of years ago. The WhatsApp message went around as well. Like
from before that.
If you got a couple of inches of snow on your roof, it's illegal. That's not true.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, is that true, guys? If anyone knows that, please let us know.
Okay.
Okay, so
Like moving away from car, like, if you're talking about crime, let's bring one up that a lot of people do. Okay, what's your opinion regarding, say, people downloading stuff that you should have been paid for? So
pirates, you mean?
yeah, pirates.
I don't know where this is going because people are going to take fatwa from this.
Okay. I think
Okay.
I think the conversation needs to go around things like, what's the byproducts of crime, a criminal society. So now, for example, like it was that drugs is becoming very common now. Yeah, drugs has become very common. Things like pirating. Okay, there's like this whole concept of copyright. Islamically, is copyright really a law? As in Islamically, is it considered to be something which is tangible or not? And the scholars differ. Some say no, some say yes. And then with regards to the law as well. I mean, you can be pulled up on a technicality. Yeah, like you don't pay a TV license, but you watch something on, that's
iPlayer,
BBC and iPlayer. That's you, or someone sends you. I think if someone sends you something from the BBC and you watch that, does that come under it? So it's like so difficult to for anyone to know the exact law. And sometimes a person just having something downloaded onto your mobile phone, you're on a WhatsApp group, and something dubious is on your phone, that you're breaking the law. So it's like sometimes unintentionally the law is being broken because the way the law has been structured. Yeah, you might know someone, asylum seeker, someone, and he's working at a certain place, or working in your own place, So it's like it's very difficult to what do you do in that situation? But I think what we need to focus on is crime, cultural crime. So one is individual crime that you get. One is a cultural crime, like carjacking now. It's becoming a cultural crime now. It's become a trend. Guys are starting to see this as a quick way of making money.
Okay, regarding those more major crimes then with drugs and like carjacking, and when people do fake insurance claims by crashing cars and stuff like that, like one argument that died.
You guys, mashallah, got a lot of sabr watching this, man.
That's a big question. Are we boring?
Yeah, these podcasts, guys, till Fajr, yeah? Yeah, so if you guys know anything about the law, about crime, jump in. Leave your comments. I don't know how to keep these comments on permanently. How do you leave them on? Is there any way of leaving the comments on? Hide all comments. Yeah, so I think it's good to. I think the cultural crime, that's a big thing that we need to discuss. A lot of the things that we're talking about is basically just going around the whole topic. Yeah, or guys want to find like loopholes in the system.
There's always loopholes we could explain.
Okay, so just a few more minutes, guys, and we're gonna switch you guys off.
Yeah,
so you guys.
We need to call it time as well as getting late.
I know. So
I think food might be back on it. Okay, so as I was saying, you know, with these other forms of crime, these major ones where people end up like profiting a lot by it. Okay, one that was given to me by a mate was the major issue is parental responsibility and acknowledgement, because you take examples of when you talk about youngsters getting started in this stuff, like low level selling drugs and stuff like that. So they're 16, 17, 18, even 15-year-olds, they're doing it, they start making money, and you get people like parents or the like people who could indirectly benefit from it. They turn a blind eye for a long while. Because who's getting fooled here? A 21-year-old who has a guy at a steady job. Okay, suddenly turns up in a new ID6. Okay, or they suddenly do a big extension and the house costing 80 grand. Okay, like we see it happen, but no, it's like the elephant in the room. Parents turn a blind eye. Okay, because they're alright with it. They talk, give it the large against it, but then suddenly their kid buys them a new house. They're like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to say anything, because it's obviously it's easier said than done.
Well, you know, I think just sorry,
obviously the problems arisen, I think, before
just going
that.
off on that one. I think there's a very good point there, because generally, I mean, even like we don't hear talks being given about the responsibility of parents or parent-like figures in the community who are supposed to be the ones that are kind of setting an example. So if you've got parents, if you've got like a guy who's obviously doing drugs, everyone knows, but he obviously hasn't been caught yet, so he's not breaking
it's not illegal, yeah.
So if you've got that kind of situation, what should be done in the community? That's the thing, that's the question. Do we kind of blame the parents? Is it their fault? Is it like one fault? Is it like multi-layered, faceted fault? Is it like so many things?
Multi-layered, but
I
don't think giving blame, at least for that instance, is important. I think for future, you need to identify what the causes were and try to address those.
But see, I think the main issue people, on, you know, there's number one is like we spoke about the loopholes and the red tape. So if the whole community knows, sometimes the police even knows, but they haven't got proof, they haven't got evidence to convict them. So the person continues. Secondly, I think there's a sense of fear as well. So if I just, snitch on this person, then, it's going to come back to me. So I think to tackle that is more like on a community level. Because if the community come together as a whole and say, look, we don't want this person in society, in our community, spoiling the children, etc.
Take them going their own hands, you mean?
No, I think it's
not necessarily
your relationship dictates how much you can do. Like, for example, if Reese decides to start doing certain things, I think it would be our responsibility to give our greatest effort to stop him, because
which obviously
be
is
receptive of
Islamically, which is the thing, Amar bil Ma'ruf Nahy Anil Munkar.
Yeah, but if there's some next guy we don't even know, if he starts doing, there's a different way we have to approach it. Like, we can maybe give him some advice.
No,
but someone we know closely, physically stop him.
No, but
okay?
what I'm
gotta,
saying,
I think it comes down, responsibility comes down to your relationship.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But what I'm saying, if we have more of a communal level of policing certain things, then people aren't necessarily afraid to speak out and say, look, I know this person involved in drugs, or because it comes back on the community. So who is the person going to go after? Is he going to go after, someone suspects? So generally, people will be a bit more comfortable saying, look, so and so doing drugs, so and so is involved in such a crime, so and so doing X, Y, Z, as opposed to going to himself and the entire blame coming back on him. So
Okay. So let's say, for example, we start policing here. What's the difference between policing and between like the haram police? People who kind of take the law into their own hands, and then they begin to,
vigilantes.
and then they, whatever they personally subjectively see as this is wrong, and then they start kind of, cracking down on just minor things which are within the law, or they just in the grey kind of area.
When you say haram police, you mean people who say you're doing X, Y, Z haram as opposed to...
No, as in like people who kind of...
basically, they're going to take over the top.
Hardline sort of people who attack everyone. I mean, you get this online as well, where you'll get certain people. But then if you kind of physically create a presence in the community and you promote a certain type of, preventing evil, preventing harms in the community, policing vigilantism in a way, or a kind of watered down vigilantism, isn't it creating a different
No, but
sort
I'm
of
not,
like,
I'm not saying take the law into your own hands. So what I'm
so
saying
how do you police them?
No, I
So
don't, I don't
you-
think,
you-
I don't
you
think
police-
snitching should be a thing. I think you don't need to take it to the police. Yeah, we do. But no, what I'm saying is,
All right, that's on the summit, yeah.
yeah.
No,
I don't
I'm
think you need to be start snitching straight away. I think the people who have a say with the person,
No, I
they should
totally agree with
address
that.
it.
I totally agree. You know, if
And I think if culture,
No,
if society, each person has that mentality. If I know someone who does X, Y, or Z, I'll address it. I think that's more beneficial than
yeah,
handing someone over.
I'm not talking about, you know, if like you said, if you know someone who's close, your brother, uncle, cousin, whatever it is, then obviously you speak to him. I'm not saying go and snitch on him, but what I'm saying is when it gets to a community level where this person is now going out there and supplying drugs to you know, the masses, or he's getting people to sell drugs for him, or he's doing other crimes, then I think it needs to be on a community level. So
Okay.
and even then, I'm not saying they take, you know, they knock on the guy's door and pull him out and, you know, sit in a restaurant and like that. But what I'm saying is that there needs to be I mean, there probably is, but we're probably not with, you know, some sort of hotline or some sort of, on a community level, so people feel comfortable to actually say, you know, this is being done.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the stuff you'll see around your area. Something simple as
Don't go my area. Yeah. It's all of our area. Yeah. All of our area.
It was you meaning as in directed to whoever's listening. So I mean, just recently my cousin showed me there was, you know, on Stratford Road there's a whole pile of bin bags. Like, is, you know, if you see the pictures, it's unbelievable how many bin bags there were. And so people have contacted council and stuff, but a lot of people won't do that. A lot of people won't necessarily go to council, or they won't even know who to contact.
Okay. So you're saying people are basically uneducated about how to deal with these issues. I don't think it's at all regarding people being uneducated. I think a lot of it is mentality as well.
No, I think there's that mentality. As long as it's not affecting me, I don't care.
Yeah, that's the see. I think that mentality is actually so generally, if you look Muslims, how many of us really kind of, apart from the physical sort of like acts of Islamic ritual that we perform, salat and hajj and these kind of things, how many of us really kind of embody the morals of Islam in our private life and in our public life? Like there's some brothers in around Adam Rock, a guy called Brother Javed. He started like a community watch, and they walk up and down the streets, and these, you know, people who pick up prostitutes and sell drugs on the streets have dramatically cut down. It's like a passive way of kind of controlling it. So I think what you're saying, if we kind of explore that aspect of trying to police the community, I think that's a more like it's more subtle, and at the same time it's quite powerful as well. But the other thing, I don't know about that. I think the other thing, there needs to be a kind of, from the mimbars, I think it's a responsibility, I think, of imams and of mosques, and particularly Fridays, where they need to address these kind of issues. They need to address, like the parents would come to the mosque. I mean, I don't know if the mosque caters for women or not, but it's like the fathers would come to the mosque, and if you address these and you mention about this, some people would probably go home feeling guilty at home. You know, my son, I know he sells drugs. Or I know my son comes home late and, you know, he gets up to bad stuff, and people have told me.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I have to do something. So
I think we need, as a community, to start addressing certain things more, because you do, like, I have heard a lot of people come later, like, we do get Jummah Khutbahs, things like that, and talk about Fadail and all these things, but more often that we ignore, say, certain pressing matters. You don't need to hijack every single Jummah, but have maybe a consistent once a month, or the first Jummah a month, address something.
I disagree.
I would say every Jummah.
I disagree with the ones. I think because the whole point of a Jummah talk is to address the communal problems. Jummah talk has never in the time of the Prophet ﷺ Sahaba ever been about entertaining a group of people about Islamic facts. Never ever been. It's always been.
It's not meant to be a dars, is it?
It's like the news of the week, and it's not just
But
news.
you say you don't like news.
No, it's not just news. Listen,
Okay.
let me finish. It's not just news. It's also like advice, and it's also prevention, and it's also, you know, a solution. It's like everything the Imam kind of gives the whole of the situation scenario and shows, okay, this is what we can do, ideas, and then inspires people in the community.
Yes, yeah, I mean that worked for me, because you know what you mentioned about the community watching stuff. the byproduct of that sometimes is that crime continues, but it just goes underground, so you don't see it, but it's still happening. So sometimes you
But
need-
isn't that better than it being out in the public?
Yeah.
Are you saying that
From
crime needs to be eradicated?
No, what I'm saying is from the perspective of people, people seeing this and falling into it.
Mm.
Yes, it's better if you go underground. But from the perspective of crime still occurring,
Yeah.
we're not. What I'm saying, that's not a complete solution. It's
Okay.
so if we couple it with, like you're saying, Juma khutbas, so addressing people, so people, and as we said, people who will feel, oh, actually my son's involved in this, and they find a solution that
You might nudge them towards actually doing
yeah,
something.
the khatib said, look, you can speak to them this way, or give them advice, or so and so you can get in touch with, get help that way, or even drugs, talk to Frank or something.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff, practical advice,
Okay.
rather than just saying, Islam says this, but then the person still goes away and says, well, I know that, but in my situation, how does it apply to me? So what I mean, I think there needs to be a practical aspect of people either giving advice or community forums or whatever it is to say.
I find with that, unfortunately, our Muslim communities generally feel they don't need like community programs. Apart from the regular bayan, like I know some places that try to set up just community talks, and you'll see generally in predominantly white areas, yeah, or maybe non-Muslim areas, you say they're very into that kind of stuff, yeah, community watch and all that. And we find the Muslim, you do like a kind of event just for general community, and a lot of the Muslims won't turn up because they won't see the responsibility that they've got a responsibility to the community. It's just, I think maybe part of the reason is because most of them come from third world countries, and the way the community has been set up over there, the structure of the community over there is very different from what's over here. And they everyone gets molded around the culture. Culture is so predominant that even if you don't give your child the right upbringing, the community will give it the right upbringing, or whatever upbringing it is. Now they come over here, they come from a village society over here, and then it's like they've got the same mentality over there. They're like not really bothered about the child's education. As long as he's going to school, that's it, and doing exams, that's it. It's like, okay, what steps have you taken? Alhamdulillah, it's changing slowly now, with parents are now putting their kids into tuition, or maybe even getting involved more with their children. But I think a lot of these kind of crimes is mentality that needs to be changed, and it's very difficult to change mentality. And then the Jummah khutbahs is something that really needs to be done. The other thing I've seen some scholars do is they lash out at drug dealers, and they'll give like a little clip, they make a little clip and spread it around about drug dealers. I mean, okay, that is a step. But at the same time, some people are afraid that, look, if you give talks and you be so harsh towards drug dealers, these people are just going to get cut off, and then you're going to create like this, insulated criminal society that feels immune to any sort of Islamic morals. They'll feel they have nothing to do with Islam. And then they just do their own things, and then how do you get in contact with them? What do you do? So, it's a very kind of problematic thing, I think, crime, and how to resolve it in our community. But I think cultural crime is on the rise, and we need to somehow try and deal with this. It's going to take years. That's my own personal sort of observation. But besides that, morals, I think morals are very important to inculcate inside of people. Yeah, it's easy to give fatwa. Yeah, fatwas are easy. People know the boundaries of what they can and cannot do. It's just like the speeding. You can and you cannot. But then, do you morally feel that this is what I'm doing is right? I'm going 35 miles per hour on 30 road. Is it morally right or not? So Islamically, we have that moral sort of like responsibility as well. That I'm doing this, but deep inside I feel guilt.
I mean, one example of that is not necessarily morally or whatever, but with the speeding, the police have now started doing these courses, so speeding courses. So rather than giving people points and a fine, people just feel, okay, fine, I've got points, and now they could send them on courses so that they'll teach them, the effects of speeding, what happens. They'll try to explain it, they'll show clips of, or incidents.
So you've been to one?
Yeah. So they show you, and they'll tell how it affects someone's life, how it changes someone's life.
Okay.
So I think that has more of an effect, because people are now, you're putting into them the byproducts of speeding, what can happen. So rather than people saying, okay, I've being hit in the pocket and feeling big, I did short chain. But right now, this time they're actually saying, they've got that. They're more conscious of thing. You know, because generally when people speed, it's not speeding because you know no one wants you to get into a crash. No one wants you to knock someone over. But they're speeding because they're in a hurry or whatever it is. But once they've got that in their mind, so like you said, morals. If someone has in their mind the effects of drugs, the effects of you know, if
no spare batteries.
Guys, what's the purpose of these podcasts? Asking.
I don't know.
To feel alive.
It's basically ARY, yeah. Face to face. Was that our third 25 minutes?
we've been recording for just over an hour.
Okay, I think we're going to finish.
We start wrapping up.
Yeah. I think we just need to talk about one more thing.
You've got 8% on that.
Yeah.
Got 6% on this. How?
You never changed the battery for that one?
I had to change the battery for that one. That's the one we changed first. Anyway.
Okay, so I think there's only one thing that I think that we missed out, which is, you know, a lot of the crime is a result of, you know, financial issues as well in the community, opportunities. So it's like, if you look, a lot of Asians, you'll see, they haven't been given a lot of the same opportunities that non-Asians have in the community. Yeah, we know privileges, for example, like you get white privilege. That's something which now is becoming more and more common. You know, Asian communities, it's like they're more focused on their own family or maybe their own particular community and ignore like inside the Pakistani community or Bengali community or I don't know, maybe it's the African, I don't know how it's there. And so you don't get like kids growing up being taught what kind of options they have in education. You don't have careers advice as well, like proper careers advice. I mean, when I had careers advice in school, it was just like, right, what do you want to become? You don't even know, and you just look for the longest word. Yeah, journalist. That sounds like a good thing. Yeah, and it's just like, you know, what do they do? So it's like, to some degree, it's like not their fault as well when you look at it. Is it their fault? Is it not their fault? That's sometimes I look at that. And then it's like later on, the guy's going to grow up. What is he going to become? What's his hopes? He just sees maybe a taxi driver, he sees a grocers, he sees, and then he doesn't want to go into that field. And then there's no one motivating him in education. Doesn't seem to fit in. He's get kicked out of school.
You will see things, although with that you can see why someone might incline towards something, it doesn't justify it though.
I'm not saying it justifies it, but I'm saying is that has a role to play, not just an element of, you know, right, we're going to start giving talks in the middle, but everyone's going to become good.
But see, the thing is, it's going back to the morals, and because you don't need to have wealth or education or anything like that to have certain morals in life.
But I would in this society I would disagree. It's not purely morals because it's clearly a capitalist society.
Yeah.
And a lot of the motivation is money, and youngsters are very impressionable. Yeah, you know, if you just kind of show the youngster quick money, and this is he'd be inclined towards that rather than struggling and making.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But if the morals are inculcated from a young age,
but see the morals again. I think the moral is not just like morals are not something which are a unique motivator for a person to do good. There needs to be things in place.
No, it's not motivated to do good, but it's a motivator to stay away from bad.
No,
so, for example, if
100% you're saying. So if someone morally,
if there's no jail time on the line, it was just morals. I think
not even jail time. I mean, people know they can get away with it.
No. But see, the fact that there's jail time shows you that it's a moral. So it's kind of a difficult hypothetical situation. What I'm saying is, if someone feels, I mean, how many times? I'll give the example. How many times would you have seen money in a masjid box? Now,
I've never opened a money box in a masjid.
No, like in the bucket collection, wherever it is, or somewhere else. You might be someone's house, or you may have seen someone's wallet. But how many times have you could easily have picked you up, walked away, and you know there's no come back to you whatsoever.
Yeah,
But-
okay.
Yeah, but I think the
No,
mosque, that qiyas, that analogy is wrong, because in a masjid, people,
Okay, outside
even
masjid-
if someone is,
Okay, outside of masjid,
okay, even other collections, people like,
Let
when
me-
it comes to like picking up someone's money, they feel bad.
Okay,
When it comes to robbing someone's car, I think that would be a bit different.
okay, someone leaves a mobile in your car. Yeah.
So are you
Or-
trying
or
to
when you-
extrapolate from what you do to everyone? Because you might not take that, but I'm sure there's people out there that would.
No, but what I'm saying is, if the moral is strong enough in that person, that I feel that is to a degree. I'm not saying 100%. Obviously, it's not 100%. Every person different. That's why we have crime. But what I'm saying is, if that moral is strong in that person, that is enough of a deterrent for the person not to do that crime.
I mean, I disagree. I disagree with them.
What stops you from committing crimes? Then? What would you?
Don't bring me. Please, bro. Yeah,
I think
how
I
many
get
times they brought me into
get
this?
your point. I think I get your point.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I think morals is basically the core essence that we need in a society, but that's not enough. There has to be things in place there to facilitate for people
No,
not to commit crimes as well.
No, what I'm saying is,
Like, look, if you look at some countries in Europe, why is it that their crime levels are low? We've got to look into that.
No,
It's
but-
not just morals. Some countries are just,
No, but I disagree, because what you're saying, assuming is the morals are perfect, and now we need something more because morals aren't enough. What I'm saying is the morals aren't.
they're most enough.
We haven't got any batteries, so we'll just have to call it in.
Yeah.
So I think
Just wrap it up. You still got that to finish off.
Yeah. So I mean, what I'm saying is, if the morals are strong enough, then we obviously you still need deterrence and other things, because now you're almost like saying, inviting people to say, well, steal. So it's kind of.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, look, okay, let's look at this then. Does the Quran just tell us morals? Does it just inculcate inside of us morals? Not necessarily. There's also things there. The Quran tells us that you shouldn't do this, shouldn't do this, shouldn't do this. Like things that will lead up to crimes as well. So the Quran has put things in place, has got like a zakat system in place, has got like a spending system in place, has got like an education system in place. So there are all these things that facilitate. It's like, some of the scholars mention, I remember one of my teachers used to say, you shouldn't leave your car door open, even if you know that, no one's going to rob your car. But it's just kind of giving the criminal the opportunity to just go and feel like robbing it. So it's like you should take your own measures
No,
as well.
I
there should be measures in the society which
that's-
facilitate.
No, but that's what I'm saying. The morals, you do need deterrence, because, like I said, you're enticing them to, and then obviously shaitan, waswas, etc. But to say people haven't had the chance, or they haven't had the education, or they haven't had the.
So you're saying it's
well,
just the core. The most important thing is the morals. And
Yeah,
after that,
yeah.
everything else.
Yeah,
is just
So you are saying that they need things in place.
Yeah, they need things in place, but
Well, that's it. We're saying the same thing, but
No, but it started from you saying they haven't the education. Or the
one thing, okay, this is what I say. Yeah, let's finish off with this. This is what I say, and we can ask everyone. What I say is this: there needs to be, with every law, the law needs to be built around morals. Okay, there needs to be an understanding of the importance of, morals and like the morals that Allah gives us is the best morals. So this is the morals that we need. But at the same time, there needs to be things that prevent crimes, things that will facilitate for people to do good and to deter them away from doing crimes. Yeah, so like poverty is a thing. Poverty is a thing that will naturally lead people to do crimes. Yeah, because it's just the way the situation is. And then if that becomes a cultural thing, if everyone starts doing it, then even if they become rich, they'll still have the habit of doing those bad things. So it's like, it's not just the morals itself. I think there's a lot of other things that have to be taken into consideration as well. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think it starts with the upbringing. So if you establish morals within an individual, like from when you're nurturing them, when they're growing up, or it doesn't have to be just their parents, it's the society, it's the schooling. If everything can have a good influence, I think that's a lot of the major work done. And then beyond that, for those that slip through, who may just naturally disagree with whatever morals you might have had, and then for them you have the extra deterrence with the punishments and so on and so forth. But I think it's a complete package thing. You need every to attack, at least from every which way, to try and at least somewhat diminish it.
I think I'm in agreement. Yeah. So again, yes. So if the morals are strong enough, but obviously not everyone's gonna have the same morals. Or some
There you go
people-
by my morals.
Yeah. No, I mean we go by the morals of Islam. I don't know about your morals, but yeah, but they definitely need to be prevented because some people will disagree with certain things, or they may not fully grasp the idea. And if the morals aren't there, then they won't even have this concept of, well, why shouldn't I murder? Why shouldn't I? If that person gets me angry, why can't I retaliate? So it all comes, yeah. But again, it's a difficult thing. It's very difficult. As you said, it'll take time.
jazakALlah khair.
We'll end it there.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thanks, Sam.
Alright guys, jazakALlah khair. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed that. So inshallah, this is the kind of podcast that we got. It's 1 hour 20 minutes, you know.
Yeah.
1 hour 20 minutes, guys. So alright, jazakALlah khair, guys. So we will see you in the future whenever within the law, yeah, not breaking the law.